All right, Browns fans, Rufio here. We're back at it again today, looking at Steve Wilks' defense from the 2018 season, trying to project what he's going to do for the 2019 season with the Cleveland Browns. So to this point, I've showed a lot of Steve Wilks' kind of zone coverages, what I would consider his most often run coverage in cover 3, and how that kind of fits in with his blitzing schemes in the fire zone blitz. So today we're going to be looking at Steve Wilks' man-to-man coverages, just a few of them. Every team is going to run some zone, some man. They're going to mix it up. It's really the, what percentage of the time you're running man versus zone. That is going to determine kind of the style of the defense. So while I would classify Wilks' defense as more of a zone scheme, you still are going to see man-to-man in that scheme. There's been some fear about players like Denzel Ward, who demonstrates excellent man-to-man coverage skills and how he's going to project in this scheme. Never fear, fans. I think Denzel Ward has a place in any defense, and we're going to see some of the coverages that he's going to be really used to today. So this first one here is the Arizona Cardinals versus the Minnesota Vikings. You can see it's 2nd and 1. So relatively short distance to go here, but it's early in the game, tied up, so pretty normal down here. And you can see the Cardinals come out in something that should look very familiar if you've watched any Browns tape. We had those Jabril Peppers on the moon kind of memes with the so-called angel position in Greg Williams' defense. Well, Greg Williams isn't the only one who likes to run a single high safety that deep down the field. So here that safety is Trey Boston. He's about 20 yards off the ball, toes at 20 yards off the ball. And you can see everyone else is kind of lined up over a man in coverage. Now typically when you see this, get this kind of look as a quarterback, you're going to think man coverage, but every NFL defense is going to try to lie to you. They're going to try to disguise and give you false keys and then surprise you after the snap. However, on this occasion, it's not a false key. This is actually the coverage that's going to be run. You can see the Vikings, 5 eligibles. They got 2 wide to the right side. They have 1 tight end in line and then a wide receiver to the left side of the field and then a running back in the backfield. As we roll the tape forward just a little bit, we see that running back shift sides of the formation, but you can pretty clearly from this position see who's going to be covering who. It's that defender that's directly over the other defender. There's nothing really surprising or complex about this. It's just kind of line up across from the guy that you're going to cover and lock him down. So this is going to be a single high coverage here. So man one, man free sometimes it's called. Different teams have different connotations associated with man free. But this is going to be a pure man-to-man with 1 safety deep. That's one of the most common coverages in all of the NFL, I'd say, and one of the best as well. One of the strengths here is you're able to get a +1 in the box, so you theoretically have enough men to be able to stop the run, fill every gap that the offense can create up front. Behind that, you have a relatively good coverage. Obviously, it depends on who your players are. If you have good, cover corners, good linebackers that can cover as well, and perhaps 1 safety, you can make this coverage pretty sound and against the pass, and while still having numbers in the box to stop the run. It's the strength of this coverage. Now you'll notice that there are 2 extra players that a defense has. They can cover everybody man-to-man. They can rush 4 down linemen. And then they have 2 kind of extra players that they can do different things with. In this instance, obviously one of those players is going to be deep. But the other one is going to be here, walked up in an A-gap, and he's going to come on a blitz. So a lot of the time, that player will play some sort of underneath the zone, or they can rush the passer. You can also use that player to double team one of the other team's best receivers. However, in this instance, again, as I roll it forward, we're going to see that player come on a blitz right away. There is kind of a soft play action here with the quarterback and the running back with run action. The line obviously pass sets, so if you're the linebacker and you're reading that, I believe this is a blitz. I would hope you wouldn't fall for that, soft play action there. And then you can see as the play action sort of stops, that linebacker does try to shed and come after the quarterback. So I believe he is on a blitz here. This linebacker here would then have the running back. You can see initially he flows with that running back to the sort of defense's right side of the formation. But as he sees the quarterback set up to throw, he knows he's got man-to-man coverage outside, and he's just going to kind of play football here and try to get in a passing lane. Does a pretty good job to read and react on that play. But unfortunately, this corner here is trying to kind of bail out. You see him with that kind of half turn where he's playing that kind of sidestep technique and just gets beat on the slant to the inside. Pretty good separation for 2nd and 1. And this is going to be easy completion here and a 1st down. So obviously man-to-man coverage, there's some subtle complexities there. Technique, obviously, that you're coaching up, trying to keep different types of leverages and play the man into your help. But from the kind of bird's eye view, there's not a lot of complexity to this, right? It's line up from the guy across from you and just be better. Just cover him, lock him down. But this is one of these instances where there is kind of a little complexity to the coverage, something to break down. And I think it's something that we're going to see from Wilks' scheme. It's running a lot of man-to-man coverage schemes. This is something I definitely know Nick Saban runs as well. And you see it in his Alabama playbooks where he breaks it down. But again, the defense is going to come out in a single high coverage look. In this case, that safety is actually trying to disguise as well. He's playing maybe what would appear to be a quarters coverage, or maybe he's going to come up and cover this kind of running back man-to-man. So he's kind of trying to disguise, not just waiting back here 20 yards deep in the middle of the field. I think that's another change we're going to see from Wilks' defense to Greg Williams with that coaching change, is that these safeties aren't going to be in the same places on every down. I'll have more on that in a future video. But in this particular play, the Seahawks send a man in motion. He's going to come near the line of scrimmage and then pivot and orbit right back out. And you see the cornerback here follow him the whole way. Typically, that is a dead giveaway for man-to-man coverage. Right? If you're going to play zone, this corner maybe follows him inside just a little bit, but then tries to pass him off basically to somebody else if he's going to go across the formation. As it stands, you see that nickelback kind of run in there and stop and turn right back around, shadow that receiver. Again, NFL defenses, they try to lie to you. There could be some element of disguise there, but when you get that as a quarterback, it's a pretty safe bet. This is going to be man-to-man. All right, so as we roll forward on the snap, we're going to see these outside corners obviously have the outside most wide receiver man-to-man. We're also going to see this deep middle of the field safety kind of rotate back to the actual middle of the field. Remember, he started kind of to the high side of our screen here, kind of feigning a different coverage, trying to give the quarterback a different read. But on the snap, he is going to rotate back to that deep middle position. You see one linebacker, the will linebacker here, expand with the running back in man-to-man there. No surprises. And then also that slot corner who did follow that man in motion into the formation and back out. He is obviously going to be in man-to-man with the slot. Now, the interesting part of this coverage is kind of those leftover guys. Now, remember, with man-to-man coverage, if we cover all 5 eligibles with one person, we rush 4 on the passer. That leaves 2 leftover guys that can be doing different things. So in this situation, one of those guys, again, is going to be that deep middle safety. The other one is, again, going to be the Mike linebacker, except on this play, he's not going to rush the passer. What he's going to do is actually drop into a little zone here in the middle of the field. Now, this responsibility is very much like a 3-receiver hook player in either the fire zone coverage or cover 3. He is the only person in the field in that kind of short zone coverage. And so everybody else then can kind of play outside leverage on their man, as you see here. And as you see this tight end starting down the field as well, we have outside leverage. And we can play outside leverage here because our help is in the middle. We have this rat in the hole. What I would call a rat in the hole is the underneath zone defender, and then you have the deep safety who's going to rotate to that middle of the field as well. So we're basically pressing everything inside to the middle. There are some exceptions to that with the corners, kind of depending on how wide this receiver lines up horizontally. You're going to play him differently, typically. Again, I know the most about kind of Nick Saban's defense. He's one of the best cornerbacks coaches alive at this point, I think, and he teaches basically a divider rule. So I believe Wilks would probably utilize something like this as well. I don't know explicitly that Wilks does it. However, what that divider rule is essentially you are taking away the most threatening space from this wideout. So let's say the offense wants to throw a dig to this wide receiver, right? They want him to run down the field and run a square in, and they want to throw him the ball. Well, a lot of offenses, what they'll do with this guy is instead of lining him up where he normally is, they'll cheat him outside. And by pushing him outside, they give themselves a little bit more space on the inside that they can throw the ball to. Well, defensive backs and defensive backs coaches aren't stupid. They know this. And so Saban teaches his corners that there's basically a spot on the field, call it 3 yards outside the numbers. And if your receiver lines up outside of that, we're basically assuming that the offense wants to create that space toward the middle of the field. And so you're going to play inside leverage there. And it doesn't matter that you have help inside, right? You're going to basically be able to play this inside leverage and then squeeze the ball to the sideline if it's thrown outside. And vice versa, right? A lot of times if the receiver, let's say they want to throw a corner route, so he's going to run down the field and break to the corner, then that receiver will typically line up inside tight to the formation, which creates obviously a lot of space outside the numbers to throw the ball into. And so as the cornerback, you don't want to be stupid there and still play inside leverage, right? You're going to play outside leverage and take away that space. So again, most players, especially players close to the formation, close inside horizontally to the formation, they're going to play that outside leverage and force into the help in the middle of the field. Again, we have that in the form of the rat in the hole underneath and the deep safety. The corners, however, their leverage may depend on the spacing of the receiver. Now, in this particular play, we get a really good example of how a rat in the hole concept works. So you could also call this a 2-on-1 funnel. Or 3-on-2 funnel, however you want to think about it. But in this instance, again, we have those leftover players. So we have one playing in deep middle. We have a linebacker playing short underneath. Now, one issue that you can have as a defense, if you're playing cover one, man-to-man coverage, is that this tight end runs inside the field. If he breaks inside early, you have a man here that's tasked with covering him. Right? And if he covers in man-to-man and he turns and runs inside, the opposing team can a lot of times pull a guard or wrap somebody else around to kick out and run the ball that way. And because you're lacking this run defender here who needs to fit into the front to stop the run on this side of the formation, he's kind of being run out of the play. You really put him in a conflict between pass and run. So what teams will do is if that tight end if there is a rat in the hole or a 2-on-1 funnel concept, if that tight end basically runs inside within the first X amount of yards, let's call it 5 yards, then we're going to trade. So the guy who was previously the rat in the hole is going to pick the tight end up man-to-man, and the guy who previously had a man-to-man is going to release him there and then become the new rat in the hole. So you're basically trading this tight end off in a way that makes sense so that you can still maintain that outside leverage here, which is also kind of incorporated into your run fit if this play were a run. So it helps a defense if they can kind of pass this guy off, not only cover him, right? Why run with him when your buddy's right there and ready to pick him up? So it helps you in pass coverage, but it also helps you defend the run as well. So notice on this play, Seattle's breaking both of these receivers inside. They kind of have these receivers run these clear routes outside, and they have that tight end and this receiver run inside. And because the Cardinals had this defense on where they had a rat in the hole ready to take the tight end, and then they had this defender here ready to become the new rat in the hole, Russ Wilson has nowhere to go with the ball, and he's anticipating that quick 3-step throw right here. The pass protection is set up for that. Obviously, we have everybody leaving into the route. We have 5 into the route, so we know this pocket is going to collapse quick. The Cardinals are able to cover those quick breaking routes, and while Wilson may have had a wide open target here if he wants to take a chance throwing a deep pass, it is at this point too late. As we watch the line, we have that right defensive end crashing inside, chasing Russell Wilson off the spot. We have that little ET stunt here where the defensive end goes inside, tackle goes out, and then we're corralling the quarterback in the pocket. So while this coverage may have broken down here, pending a perfect throw from Wilson, which he's certainly capable of delivering, what was important was that the Cardinals covered the easiest, quickest throws, and that's short and over the middle of the field. All right, everybody, so that's it for this week. Hopefully that made sense. Cover one with either a blitz or a rat in the hole. It's a great man coverage that Steve Wilks is almost definitely going to bring to the Browns next year. I'm really excited to see this one in action. So we'll see you next week, Browns fans. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Rufio. Make sure to visit dogsbynature.com for all your Cleveland Browns news and analysis. We'll see you in the next one.